and welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast, proudly brought to you by Will Schofield and Oscar Allen. Yes, we are sponsorless, but that's okay. We move on, we continue on, and if you are a sponsor out there, you do want to get your name in the lights, the bright lights, the back page. I believe we're on the back page of the West last week, Oscar.
I think that's more to do with your comments than mine.
That's okay. We're a team.
I'll take it as well.
A win's a win, mate. And talking about wins, we've had a win this week. It was a good game, and we kicked it off well.
Yeah, it was a good game. Probably didn't start as well as we would have liked, and I think I'd be lying if I was saying I wasn't a little bit nervous. Probably 10 minutes into the first quarter, they kicked the first 2 goals, but the boys rallied and put together a pretty solid performance, I thought, in the end.
I was going to bring that up. It did have a similar vibe to our first 3 losses in the hub in the first 10 minutes or so. Interesting, you said you were a little nervous. I was a little nervous in the crowd as well. Why did that change? Why did it not just keep going the way the other 3 games have gone?
I think it just started off with the midfield. Often in AFL footy, it's won and lost in the middle. I think Nick got over the top of the Oppo ruckman and Yowie put on his cape for a little bit and played really well. Boots, TK, Gaffey, I thought our midfield collectively were very good throughout the day. But they got the ball forward, and Jakey Waterman and myself got on the end of a couple at the end of the first quarter to give us a little bit of momentum. And we kind of just went from there throughout the game. All
right, well, I was going to leave it till the end of the game to speak about your antics, but we will speak about you first, maybe get it out of the way. I would say that's your best game you've ever played at AFL level. Agree or disagree?
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree with that comment.
You had 4 votes in the Coaches Association votes. Well done.
Thank you.
I can't remember the last time I got votes in that, if ever. I don't think I ever have.
I'm sure you would have at some stage. You had some good turbies back in the day.
I honestly just haven't been that sort of player over my whole career. And you might say, what, a good one? And you'd be correct.
You'd be correct in saying that, yeah.
Yeah, but mate, I thought your game individually was exceptional. And for listeners of the podcast, I think very interesting to watch you perform like that, given how you spoke about being dropped last week. Talk to us about the mindset changed from being dropped 1 week to back in the team. How do you go from, I guess, playing poorly the week before you got dropped to playing your best ever career AFL game? What do you put that down to?
I think mindset's obviously a huge thing in sport, and not only was it throughout the week, but weeks leading on as well. I've been working really hard since I've been here. We've got great facilities here and an opportunity to train basically 24/7 if you want to. So I think I've worked really hard in the time I've been here, but I'm just pretty cautious now about the fact that when you have a good week, often you stop doing the little things that made you perform well that week. So my mindset now is just staying on top of things, doing the extra cardio, extra goal kicking and touch, the things that I have been doing that allow me to play my role on the weekend, keep doing that this week and weeks onwards so I can hopefully continue to play my part for the team.
Talking about your role, you played more minutes than you did the game that you got dropped. You played, I think, double minutes potentially. Does a fluctuating role, does that make it hard to maintain a consistent mindset you're talking about, or is it on you to adjust your mindset to just be accepting of, well, you're a young player, you're going to have games where you play a lot, some where you don't? Where do you sit with that?
I think the mindset should be the same no matter what. And it should really just be to play your role for the team. So on the weekend, for those watching closely, I had more of a role in the forward line and then rucked less than compared to the game against Brisbane. I think I might have played 45 minutes against Brisbane and 40 of those would have been in the ruck. Whereas on the weekend, I played close to 90 minutes and majority of those up forward. My natural role, I think, as a footballer at this stage of my career is as a forward, and it probably allowed me to have a greater impact on the game than I did against Brisbane.
For what it's worth, I think the role you play on the weekend is one most suited to you, but I'm not match committee or really have no relevance whatsoever on selection of the team, so who really cares? I think the defenders probably played their best game of the season so far. Taking away Melbourne round 1, I'm kind of looking at that as not really a part of this season, to be really honest. I thought the defensive group, and that, in some part includes forwards and midfielders. I thought as a team we defended the best we've defended, and that flowed onto our back line. I thought our back line looked really solid. We're able to intercept the footy, which is no secret, is a big strength of ours. And we're able to then use the footy well on the way out as well. Again, probably a strength of ours being able to use the footy. So overall, I thought it was a really sound effort. We had young guys in the forward line playing very well, yourself and Jakey Waterman, and then our back line ended up, being able to play the way that we've probably performed over a long period of time, and haven't been able to produce that so far this season. So that was exciting and promising, yet not really conclusive in any way because it's 1 week. And as we've spoken about a little bit here and speak externally about it, is one great thing. Darren Glass used to say this a lot. It's never as good as it seems, never as bad as it seems. So we lost 3 in a row. It's not the end of the world. We've won 1 in a row. It's never as good, right? So for us, it's pretty system based going forward now, right?
Yeah, and I think that's put across by the coaching staff. It wasn't sirens and alarms when we lost our first 3 games here at the Hub, and it won't be champagne and celebrations when we do win one. We expect high standards of ourselves, and we're process driven, not outcome driven. So obviously we work hard throughout the week and get the result on game day. It shouldn't really change the way we go about the next week. We should do the same thing, work hard and rock up on game day and hopefully win.
A couple of hamstrings on the weekend. Jermaine Jones and Luke Shuey, captain. Was it a harder week on the track last week? What's going on there?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more of an intense mindset. I think a big, not issue, but different aspect is with no contact at main training, there's obviously more drills of which will be fast flowing ball movement, probably higher end speed rather than game simulation, which in games you're not having the license to run up and down the ground as much as you are when it's a non-contact session. So I think that might have something to do with it. But
also, sometimes it means nothing. Sometimes it means 2 blokes have done their hamstrings and has nothing to do with training or anything else. It's just bad luck.
Yeah, and it's an event. If it happens continually, then it's maybe a pattern, but right now it's just an event. 2 guys did the hammies, but we've got a deep list and we're going to have to reach into it this week to get some guys coming in.
Talking about deep lists, who is in line for one, that small forward position, pressure guy that I thought JJ's game of the weekend was unreal. Played really well, and we spoke a bit about him last week debuting. He's had to fight really hard to, one, get onto our list in the first place, but he's coming from a long way back, and thought he was one of our better players on the weekend. So big shoes to fill potentially. Yep,
I thought Jermaine, like as you said, that was definitely. He's only played 2 games for the club, but that was definitely a really promising performance and obviously disappointing for himself. But I think he'd take a lot of confidence in that he can play that role really well.
Who comes in?
I think that
potentially comes in.
Potentially up forward, Jack Petruccelli, Jared Cameron. They're the 2 that I'm thinking about. Maybe even a Nick Reed.
Hey, there you go. I got that on radio this morning. Did radio this morning, and that was the first name thrown at me.
Wow.
Which, maybe to some of our Perth listeners, you'd know the name, but Reedy's a new guy on our list this year.
Yep. He played in our waffle team last year.
Yeah.
So he picked up from North Beach and was one of the intake players in our inaugural West Coast Eagles waffle side. And he was a really strong performer throughout the year. He's a high hybrid kind of forward, a high half forward, but plays a little bit taller than what he is. Smooth mover, left footer, takes the game on. I'd say he's one of the possibilities up forward.
And what about in the midfield?
We've got some young talent coming through in the midfield. So we've got Xavier O'Neill, who was our first pick in the 2018 draft, I believe. Hamish Brayshaw, Braden Ainsworth, Jared Brandy could perhaps come back into the side. He's been struggling with back complaints the last couple of weeks, so I'm not sure.
You potentially just see a bit of a shift in the way the minutes are being thrown around in there at the moment. We've got a highly talented midfield group, and I think they'd be the first to admit they haven't been performing the way they would have liked. You never want to lose games of footy, and as much as a backman, you like to throw heat on other groups. If our midfielders aren't playing well, it's very hard to play. It's very hard to win games of footy, and it's always the backline's fault if we win or lose. But in reality, the midfield, they're the guys. They're the guys that win and lose your games of footy, and probably just hasn't been as consistent in there. But potentially Luke Shuey going out just shifts the balance of minutes in there. I know Dommy Sheed's been playing a fair bit of forward minutes, and we all know what he can do in the guts. So we've had several circumstances over the past couple of years where we've had a big name out, and I think probably in the past we've just reshuffled the minutes in the way they go, and maybe you do see a more of a forward type player come in to replace Luke Shuey, and other guys just take up those minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity. We've obviously got a pretty senior midfield group. There's not a lot of chopping and changing with our group. I think Sheed is probably the youngest in our group at 23, 24. So it could be a really good opportunity for a younger player to come in and play a role for a week, couple weeks, depending on how severe Luke's hamstring injury is.
All right, we're in the last week. We are on Coast to Coast. Oscar Allen and Will Schofield. We're continuing on. Sponsorless. That's fine. We are enjoying ourselves, though. Last week on the Hub here, Oscar.
Yes.
What are you going to miss about the Hub?
I think as we're now going to be going back into a quarantine period for the next 2 weeks, I think missing being able to do things. Obviously, we are in a hub and we can't just go out to a restaurant and sit down, but it's really good the way the AFL have worked. We're allowed to go play golf, allowed to go to the beach and go swimming, go walking, do whatever we want. Obviously, we won't be able to do any of that for at least the next 2 weeks. So that'll probably be something I'll be missing.
So just to explain that, we've been in the hub and there was as there's always going to be, there's going to be a lot of questions being asked when you're changing environments. So when we came over here, there's a lot of questions, and that some of them are public, some of them are private. There's a lot of people unsure about what was going on. But I'd say as the whole, it's going to be 31 days at the end of it all. It's been great. We've had a great environment, been looked after by the footy club, first and foremost. AFL's done a great job in organising the hub. Hotel staff have been amazing. Actual hotel and resort has been incredible. We've been able to do everything we want, pretty much. You can't go and sit in a restaurant. That's pretty much it. But on the way back home, we're under government, police enforced lockdown. So when we come home, I actually think those 2 weeks will be the toughest. It'll be a 45-day period if you put it all together. 5 weeks here in the hub in Gold Coast, plus a 2-week isolation back home. Yes, we'll be back with our families and it'll be fantastic. And I'll be the first to say, can't wait to do it. But the 2-week police enforced lockdown means we're not doing anything. You don't get to go out for food. You don't get to go out for groceries. You don't get to fill your car up. No walking the dog. We've got training in and out of our homes, but that's it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a challenge.
I think it's going to be interesting because we've been living in each other's back pockets a little bit, seeing everyone for every meal. And you'll go to, I might see Scully because we're not in the same line. I'm in the forward line at the moment. Scully, obviously, the back line. I might see him at main training for an hour and then game day.
Didn't think about that.
I won't see you at all, basically.
I did not think about that at all.
It's going to be really interesting, I'm not sure, the chemistry between the boys, because with us being separated in groups of 9, which is, if you didn't know, we're still separated in those groups throughout all of our training sessions except our main session. Obviously, I see Scully every day around the hub here, but when we go back home, I won't be seeing him around town going and getting a coffee. It might be 2 hours a week I see Scully, and then...
Would the Victorian clubs been experiencing something similar in the past couple of weeks while they've come back into further restrictions?
Yeah, I assume so. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah, so we've potentially been getting it better than most AFL clubs over here. We've been in an isolated hub where we've been able to see each other and be with each other most of the time, where potentially some other Victorian clubs are been copping the poor end. So maybe they'll be happy to get out of Victoria, which they've done this week.
Maybe we've had it the best the whole time, and the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, and we'll get to the other side of the fence and it's not as it seems.
Can we go keep talking in cliches?
Do you like that one?
Yeah, it's not too bad. You probably just fumbled at the end, but that's okay.
Stuttery.
Has anyone come out of their shells, their true self been revealed over here on the hub? You speak about spending more time together with our teammates. Has anyone in particular come to mind that is someone that you didn't think they were?
I'm not going to say come out and see a different side of them, but it's been interesting to see the friendship groups and the different bonds that people have, because you see guys at the club and you might catch up with a couple of them and you'll have your close group of 3 to 4 guys that are your boys. They're your little squad.
Yeah, like everyone does in everyday life,
yeah,
right? It's
like everyone. And yeah, I found it interesting to see who everyone's little squad is. So at the football club, you can sometimes tell but all the young boys have just really formed a good bond together, which is good.
I've been hanging out with the young blokes way more than I'm just, as you're talking, I'm like, who have I been hanging out with? I've been hanging out with 18 to 22-year-olds.
The old blokes are boring. I'm going to say.
I'm an old bloke.
Mentally, you're not an old bloke.
I eat dinner every night with you, Bailey Williams, Harry Edwards, that crew.
I haven't seen Nick Nat for 2 weeks.
I don't think I've seen him either. Brad Shepard?
No.
It's not really a loss.
No. JK's actually not bad.
Yes.
He's
similar vibe to me because he hangs around the young blokes a bit. Shares the love. Shannon Hearn, remember him?
Who's that? A former captain.
That is, well, that's correct. That is, yeah, that's a very good point. It's been interesting to see yourself go between, because it's a different environment. It's not a footy environment anymore. Like, we're living together. It's like a home environment.
It's kind of an away trip vibe that's kept on going. So the young guys have
never
ending away trip. The young boys will go downstairs, we'll play card games, we'll play werewolf,
yes,
P's and A's, and we'll hang out with each other.
What is P's and A's?
Presidents and...
sorry. Yes.
Yes. We'll all hang out with each other. And then the older guys would be used to not really seeing as much of us outside the football club. So I think they get sick of it and they just would rather be in their room, FaceTiming their missus, saying hi to their kids. Something you obviously weren't looking forward to.
There's only so long you can FaceTime your missus and say hello to your kids.
JK's trying to get out of team meetings to go and FaceTime his missus.
No, he's not.
Potentially.
Is Shannon. Have we found that out? You are still on Coast to Coast with Oscar Allen, Will Schofield, a couple of battlers just coming to the end of the Gold Coast hub. It's been fun though. We've been doing this podcast weekly.
Yep.
It's been quite a highlight, really.
It's been enjoyable.
We found ourselves on the back page of the West Australian last week. I thought last week's show was the best of the lot. Had some good, strong topics, some strong opinions.
Yeah.
One of them was about Lewis Jetta, who I said, I'm not quoting myself here because I can't really remember, but it was the best, potentially the best player, most influential player I've ever played with in my time at the club. And that's in front of AFL Hall of Famer Dean Cox, Brownlow medalist, Cousins, Judd, Pritis. Played with a lot. Lewis Jetta.
With a lot of good footballers.
Yeah, I have. I'm pretty old. That was put into an article about Lewis getting dropped. And perhaps it was a bit, they didn't quite to go together. Me saying he's the best player I've ever played with and him getting dropped the same week.
Yeah.
But I would stand by my comments like a million times over. Like, you can still get dropped and be an influential person around the footy club. And I think Jet's probably rightly got dropped. His form's been down. And what are you meant to do? You're meant to just keep playing someone because they've got a good reputation. I don't think good teams or cultures are built on that. I heard there was potentially a bit of, not backlash, but some lols at me saying he's the most influential player ever and then he gets dropped. Well, everyone comes towards the end of their career and you can't just keep playing someone if they're not playing well. So Jets, I think, is taking it really well and he's training his ass off and he's going to get better and he'll be back in the team this year. He's just not in it right now. That's okay.
Absolutely. I think it was a good stance made by the match selection community. I think a lot of AFL teams, senior players, are almost put in this category that they're untouchable or undroppable, and no matter what the team's doing, they're going to play week in, week out, which isn't necessarily the best thing for a football club. And I commend, obviously I'm going to commend them because they also picked me this week, so thank you very much for that. But I think it was the best thing for the team and where we currently are at, and we all know what a talent Jets is and the influence he has on games and around the club. So, as you said, no doubt he'll be back in the team soon. This
comes back onto the form conversation we had, form expectation mindset conversation we had last week. You're going to get dropped. You can almost guarantee you're going to get dropped. I actually don't think Shannon Hearn's ever been dropped.
He has. He got dropped after his second game. I was talking to him the other day.
Wow.
Only one in the club. Guess who it is?
Kennedy.
Darling.
Kennedy has not been dropped at West Coast. Oh, maybe early.
Yeah, he was playing backup ruck. He told me the other day.
In Carlton. He's been dropped at Carlton.
He was playing backup ruck at East Freo for a period of time when he came back from Carlton.
Really?
Yeah.
So Jack Darling never been dropped?
No, never been dropped from he played his first game, whenever that first game was.
Missed with injury?
Yeah, missed with the ankle injury. He's played one game of waffle footy, which is coming back from that ankle injury.
Wow.
He's played
at West Perth?
He played at East Perth. He played league footy since he was 16 at West Perth, never got dropped there. So life is nice for some. But I think adversity makes greater characters. So that's why you and I are on this podcast and he isn't.
I'm not going to add anything to that because you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. You need to get dropped because bad stuff's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And if you can't deal with that, then this has no reflection on Jack Tarling. That was a joke by Oscar. But like in general, if you can't bounce back from poor things that happen to you or being in poor form or, getting dropped from a team, overall, not personality, but overall, mindset wise as a human, I think you're going to struggle. So Jets is a strong man. He's been in the league a long time. Dual premiership player, has dealt with adversity. This is not the worst thing he's ever dealt with, and he'll be fine. And look forward to him getting back into the team. But it was good to see Jacko Nelson and Tom Cole playing together. And you can add Liam Duggan to that little list. They got a nice little friendship group going together, and it was one of the first games they'd all played together in the back line. They've played games together, but Duggo's been on a wing or Jacko's been tagging, or to see them all in the back line, I thought it was exciting. And, match that with you and Jakey Waterman up forward. Good signs for the future of the footy club. Now, we're going to wrap this one a little bit earlier than usual, but that's okay. We've got a couple more things to go through. As I said, we're coming towards the end of the hub. Any stories that have happened over the last week or so that are half decent that might want to bring the people into the hub with us before we leave? Like, I feel like stories they're a good way to connect people, and I've thrown that at you without really preparing you, but has anything been happening we can talk about?
Yeah, well, living in each other's back pockets, you get exposed to some of the things in people's private lives of which you don't, some people's habits. So a group of us have been journeying to the hot tub most evenings, the spa that we've got in the pool area, and just chatting shop, talking about all things of the world. A lot of rubbish conversations going on.
I'm glad to never have taken part in one of these hot tub sessions.
But as I'm not going to state who it was, what club, I'll just say someone from the hub.
Someone in the hub?
Someone in the hub. We've looked up and we see them in their room.
So the spa looks up at about half of the rooms in the whole building. Like, there's 25 floors and you can see every single room. And if you have the curtains open with the lights on, you can see in the room from the spa.
Yes. And I say it's about 8:30 at night, and someone was doing their nightly ritual, and we had to look up and someone was walking around brushing their teeth.
Yep, that's normal.
Strutting around naked. Butt naked. And there was about six.
So you just come to the window and just 5 seconds and came to the window naked. Who cares?
Yeah, 5 seconds came to the window naked. We had a laugh about He proceeded to stay there for the next 4 minutes brushing his teeth. He must have the pearliest of whites you've ever seen. Finished brushing his teeth and then turned on his TV, sat down on the couch, which is somehow we could see the clear view of it facing the hot tub, and watched TV for the next half an hour.
You sure you weren't in a hot tub in his room? You sure the hot tub wasn't actually in there with him?
I don't know how or why this happened, but it was very humorous. And
does this person, has anyone told him that this has happened?
It would be the last thing I'd ever tell anyone. I could never tell him to.
I feel like you went into enough detail there that they'll know who that is if they listen to this.
I seriously doubt he or she has any interest in listening to this.
You've been saying he.
Or she.
Yeah, you've been saying he in the story.
He.
Yeah, very good.
What about you? You've obviously indulged in a lot of private time in your room. What's the main thing that you've been doing in... And
what are you laughing
dirty
for?
minds out there, get your head out the gutter. But what have you been engaging with your teammates? Any stories or anything you've got for me?
All right, I've got a couple. Pinball has been huge on the hub. There's a pinball machine here and there's some serious rivalry. And if you don't know how to play pinball, you might just think, oh, pinball machine, who cares? This is a game. But like, there's some serious strategy, serious skill involved in it. And there's been a leaderboard. Shannon Hearn was the early clubhouse leader and was there for a while. Liam Duggan from nowhere, from the clouds, with not a lot of time spent on it, has come on. So 40 million was Shannon's score. Duggo's popped out a 62 million score. Mine is about 50 million for those at home, just following at home. And that was all good. Duggo was the leader for a long time. Do you know who the leader is now?
Hamish Brayshaw.
Hamish Brayshaw has dropped an 85 million score, and I've heard that he's trying to squeeze the pinball machine back onto the shipping container that comes back to Perth with us.
So
There's been a lot of minutes played on this pinball machine.
I haven't played much pinball at all. I'm more of a table tennis, pool kind of guy myself.
Which we have both of those. We literally have everything in this.
Yeah, we've got it's amazing. Yeah. But for reference, how long would it take to get an 80 million score or whatever?
Well, in terms of the time spent, like it's like a 5-minute game.
Yeah.
But he's probably put 10 to 14 hours more, maybe. He plays every night after dinner. He plays when it's near our prep and physio room, plays then. I do the same. So I can't really complain. I'm not getting better and it annoys me. And it annoys me that he's the leader and I've got 3 days to beat it.
He's very good at a lot of things, Hamish Brayshaw. Probably one of the best golfers at the club. Probably the smartest man at the club. He's genuinely studying neuroscience and it's annoying that he's good at everything.
Yeah.
To wrap up this week's episode of Coast to Coast,
yes,
we'll finish with one football topic.
Okay.
I don't know how much football you watch on the weekend, Scully.
Not a lot at the moment. I usually do, but I've got to be honest, I'm not watching a lot of it. It's a combination between the season, the fake crowd. I don't know. I'm not into it at all at the moment.
Yeah.
I know you weren't. That's not your question.
No, that's not my question.
And people are listening and maybe maybe they disagree, but I'm not really watching much of it.
Yeah. Well, my question is regards to the holding the ball and the interpretation of it. We have umpires actually staying with us here in the resort as well. So they've been hubbing here. But
a couple of visits to their room with a nice little bottle of wine maybe from you, mate.
Maybe. It was in regards to a couple of coaches, senior coaches came out last week and criticised the lacking of the actual paying the holding the ball and making a really stagnant game. And watching our game on the weekend, I think you'd find they were blowing a lot more of them holding the ball and keeping the game rolling, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think shortened games lessens congestion, keeps the ball rolling. I think the main thing everyone wants is just a good amount of, what's the term I'm looking for? Consistency. If you're going to pay it one way, pay it the other. Just make it consistent, and I'm happy with it. Your thoughts on the issue?
Yeah. Well, I think the whole point of it is to not keep the game moving. It's to open the game up. So if you think about a pack that's formed and you got 2 players with a ball, and there's a tackle, and then it just spills out a little bit, and another 2 players come in, and then 3 players from each side are in there, and then it's just bobbling around the ground, and everyone just keeps getting sucked in, and it takes 25 seconds to call a ball up, which is what happens a bit at the moment. That congests the game because it just gets tighter and tighter, and there's just it's just a rolling maul. It's a bit like rugby. It just rolls around. Whereas if you blow a free kick in that first one-on-one contest, someone tackles, free kick, everyone spreads away from the footy to go and get a kick. No one just dags around, hanging around. It's just like, boom, bomb goes off. So that's the whole point of the conversation, I believe. Could be wrong, but I think it's less about keeping the game flowing and more about opening it up. I don't know if that's our biggest issue, but I probably won't name him, but one of the smartest footballers I've ever played with, now a coach, you can probably figure out who that is. Maybe not. This was his big one, the holding the ball rule. This was actually his big, he's like, if you do that, the game will be fixed. Don't worry about anything else. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Too hard to judge right now on whether or not it's going to work. And in terms of consistency, yeah, that's exactly what you want from a player. I think as long as you know what's going to be paid and what's not, there's no issue. There's not really an issue with any. Sometimes when they bring new rules in, like completely new rules, like the hand in the back rule that came in maybe 4 or 5 years ago, like you can't place a hand in the back. That took a while to adjust it, especially as a backman. But in general, you just play, don't you? You just play into the whistle. So you just want consistency. You're not running around with a rule book out there thinking that's wrongly interpreted. You're just listening to the whistle. It gets paid. You move on. And I don't know, maybe you do, but I certainly don't get too hung up on umpires' calls. I give them a fair spray when they give my opposition a free kick in the forward line, but you generally just want to play.
Yeah, you can't control it, and the longer you spend thinking about it, the more likely you are to have it affect your game.
Well, that's all we got for the Gold Coast Hub, coast to coast. Next week we'll be coming out, I believe, out of a studio, but I was talking to our producer just before, and we potentially may not even be able to do that. We're going to try and work out some things with the way we're going to be governed once we return back to Perth, but that's fine. We're flexible. We're mobile. We're agile. Give me some more synonyms.
We play it by the ear. We're sharp.
Yeah, okay.
Adaptive.
Okay, adaptive. I like that.
Smooth movers.
Okay.
Unlike on the football field.
I was thinking about the name you gave this, the Bald and the Beautiful.
That's pretty good.
I probably should have mentioned that at the start of the podcast, but I like it a lot.
Are we going bold or
No, Bald.
Bald?
Yeah, Bald. BALD.
Awesome.
And beautiful.
Which one is which?
Well, I'm bald, and we're potentially going to have to get a beautiful person into this podcast because it's not you.
Ouch. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.